Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review. I'm here today to talk about Black History Month, the month that is a celebration of my people, because I am a black man and everything. And it's about all our accomplishments, all the oppression that we have gone through over like centuries of living in like America and stuff like that. So I'm here today to talk to you about Borders Season 3. First, let me just say, yes, I know it's not Black History Month. It's March. Well, I'm hoping to upload this in March. That is, it's March, not February. Okay, I know that, you know what I'm saying? But here's the thing, right? This is a British comedy show that comes out every March. So, because of that, I always have to upload these videos in March and not in February. And it really sucks because I like to use my little, like, Black History Month, like, template and everything. But, it is what it is. Plus, I'm black 24/7. It's my channel, and I can upload whatever type of video, whatever kind of template I want, whenever I want to. So, now that we got that out the way and everything, no, once again, I do not think it's February. So, Border Season 3. This season just kind of like snuck up on people. I knew ever since last year from Season 2 I reviewed, I've known that Season 3 was being written, because that's what it says on Wikipedia. So I've been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, checking Wikipedia this year, checking to see if there's a trailer or whatever. When it comes to Wikipedia, they have not updated it whatsoever. They haven't updated who's going to be in Season 3. They haven't updated it if the show's like been canceled, ended, or whatever. Still to this day of me recording this, it still has not been updated. And so I get an email from Tubi, because this is where you watch it in America, Tubi. Thank God it's free. And so like I get an email talking about Borders come out today, Season 3. I'm like, wait, what? I haven't heard nothing from this. Not even the celebrities that are in this show that I follow. They haven't posted like nothing. And so I'm like, where's the trailer at? So then I'm like looking like, what? The trailer came out a week before the show premiered. That's not enough time to let people know this show is coming out. Even the BBC uploaded the same day Tubi did. How the heck are people supposed to know in America that like this show just now came out? I don't know when it comes out in like the UK, but like, so I'm all like, thank God I'm like subscribed to Tubi and everything, because I would have never known this came out. Because I've been even checking Tubi to see if they've uploaded it new episodes, and they haven't. And so as I'm watching, I decided to like research something because, okay, you already know this is a spoiler alert. So, okay, let's see the dude's name. Oh, I don't have my reading glasses on to see. Joaquin, that the actor who plays him, Josh. And I can't say his last name. It's either Tidico or Tedico or something like that. Dude disappeared from this season. Like, he's only in the first episode fully, but he doesn't do nothing in the first episode other than just like hug his roommate and say, yeah, he took that MIT position in America. So right from the start, the main picture is misleading because it shows all 5 of them. And then he leaves in the second episode, didn't even tell his friends, just gave them like, they called him and video called him, and that's all we see of him. And then he re-pops back up in like episode 4, I want to say, as another video call. We don't even get to see what his life is like in America or at MIT. All we hear him say is that, I'm still like, I'm adjusting in America and it's hard, blah, blah. It's like, but we never get to see none of that. Then he pops up at the very, very, very end of episode 6. And so before I even got that far, as I'm watching, like, the second episode, and I see he leaves, and I'm just like, what? Why did they write him out? So I'm trying to find information on that, right? And then I read the sad news. Season 3 is the last season of this show, this amazing show. I can't get my words out right now. But yes, this is the last season of Borders. I'm like, no, man, this is like one of my favorite new shows and everything. Like, it can't end already. Now, I read it did not get canceled. It just ended. And it ended with them graduating and going off to college and stuff. And I'm just like, nah, man, it's like the last season. He's not going to be in the show. And what's gonna happen. And so I was just bummed by like the third episode trying to watch this show and everything. And this show is a breath of fresh air. Like, it really was, television wise, because okay, it's a British show, right? And I talked about both seasons of this show. Basically what it was about, it's like, it's a prep school that's primarily white. A couple of Asian people, maybe 1, 2, 3 black people, right? And so some of the white students decided to pee on a homeless man and record it. So this prompted the district to be all like, hey, look, we need more representation in this school. Let's bring in some like black inner city kids, urban kids or whatever, and give them like a scholarship to go to this school. Now, the person they peed on, I don't think he's black. He looked white to me. So it was kind of weird that they would bring in a group of black kids because of what these white students did to this homeless man. Maybe he is black and I just don't know it. And so, it's about, how are these black kids who don't have the resources that the rich white people have, and what's it gonna be like, plugging them into this school? What are they gonna face? How are people gonna treat them? Also, this white prep school, they're not used to people of color. They're not used to people who are urban. So what is that gonna be like for them? You know what I'm saying? That was such an interesting premise and everything. And you do see like how some of the kids treat them slightly different. Now, Season 1 got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and so does Season 3. Season 2 did not. Now, when I say this was a breath of fresh air, also one of the reasons is because it's a show that, yes, it is primarily white, but the 5 lead main stars are all black and everything. Well, one's half black, half white, that we later find out this season. But, still half black, and it's still, black, and it's still white. So he's still a black dude and everything. And it's like, so the main characters are black, but the supporting cast and the recurring cast are white. That is flipping the entertainment world like on its head. Like, it's flipping the script, you know what I'm saying? Because there have been so many predominantly white shows that I have seen where you'll have like that one lonely person of color, mainly a black person, in the show or in the movie. And if you were to have a person of color, they're like supporting and everything. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this where it's truly like, a white show with black leads, and the white people are both recurring and supporting. Like over here in America back in the 90s and stuff, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was a predominantly black show, and they have like a couple of like white recurring characters in season 1, but then they faded away. Martin had that one white actor who was supporting actor in season one and season one only. It was a predominantly black show. So this is kind of interesting that the fact that it's a white show but it has black leads in it. And that right there is like one of the smartest things anybody could have cooked up, you know what I'm saying? And it's also a breath of fresh air to see these black kids and their experiences. But not only that, but like there are different types of black because this is like the UK and Britain, you know, a lot of the black people that live over there weren't necessarily like, well, actually nobody really truly the ancestors truly come from Britain, because we all know they come from like African or black countries and stuff. You know, you have like one Jamaican guy, you have one Nigerian dude, Josh, I can't pronounce where he's from, but it starts with a G. And I forget where the Leah actress or her voice, her accent comes from. She might also be Jamaican. I can't remember. I don't know what Omar is. So it's really cool to hear these different accents and everything, you know? And they're not fake. They're like real and everything. That's one of the things that always bugs me about television. And you'll have a person of color, they're from like say another country or whatever, and they have that accent. Or maybe they're not from another country, they're just a person of color and they have an accent. That always bugs me because it's always a fake one and never really real, you know what I'm saying? And so the fact that these are real is just like so like interesting to hear, you know, and the different shades of like black they have. And so this show has always been a hit with people. I wish more and more people will watch, because there are some people who've never heard of this and never seen it. And I really wish people would, because it's such an entertaining show. And season one is by far the best season. Like season one did exactly what it was supposed to do. Wasn't perfect because you know there's 6 episodes each season. They last for about an hour. So there tend to be some rushness, which I've always talked about in the past, even in season one, like Abby. Abby kind of got over her kind of like, see, the thing about Abby is this: she's half black, half white. Her dad is white and the dean or the headmaster at the school. Abby does not hang out with black people, and she could care less about black customs and this and that, and she could care less about black hairstyles and everything. Meeting Leah, who was her roommate, taught her how to, like, you know, appreciate black hairstyles, this and that. Also, she started messing around with Toby, and eventually they started dating. My problem with the Abby character was that her story arc in season one was completely rushed to the point where she started accepting black people and black cultures very, very quickly. And it's kind of weird because, you know, she's hung out with nothing but white people. As for her mom, I don't even remember seeing her mom in the show. But she has a white father who clearly likes black people enough to like make babies with them, but treats them differently because he is rich, preppy, privileged and stuff like that. So he does look down on them and treat them wrongly, even though he has a black daughter himself. So there's always been like rushness all throughout like the series, you know what I'm saying? But more so in season 2 and season 3 with a lot of storylines. But I still think season 1 is by far the best because they hit the notes that they were supposed to hit. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are some like racist white people in the show who treat the black people wrong. There are some of the black characters who are trying their best to like get along with these people, and it's hard. They feel like outsiders no matter what they do. People just give them funny looks and stuff or treat them differently, you know what I'm saying? The school, like, you know, the people who run the school don't really want them there and everything. Leah started off as an activist and she damage like a portrait or like a statue that was racist and everything, but the school had no problem with that racist statue or portrait because they saw it as, oh, this is history, blah blah. But she's like, I ain't going to school looking at this racist statue or portrait. I'm gonna do something about it, and she damaged it. You have Femi, who has hung out with black folks all his life, his group of friends that went to the school with him, because they are poor, they're not as rich as these other people, and he completely abandons them just to hang out with the rich white people, but only goes back to his friends when he's having problems in school, like because he's failing his classes because he's partying too hard. And then you have Omar, who is secretly gay, and he is falling for his bully, and his bully is one of those racists who peed on that homeless man. But then comes season 2, and I felt like, and I said this before, I feel like the show lost its identity and everything in season 2, because it went from being this like show with main black characters and having black experiences and social issue topics and messaging and stuff like that, and trying to show a different perspective and everything, to basically losing its identity and just becoming a generic teen comedy show where the black kids are still the main cast members, but it's like they started introducing more white characters, like, guest starring appearances from like really famous people. A lot of the supporting characters started to feel a little more like main, which I don't have a problem with, because like I said before, I can go either way. You can either give me a show about like black experiences and what is that word? I guess you could just call it black messaging. I can't think of the word I want to think of right now. Or just a typical teen show. You know what I'm saying? Plus, a lot of those supporting characters, people grew to like them a lot. So you do want them to get more screen time and story development and this and that. But, there was like a shift in season 2. There were less black topics. There was less black experiences. And like, I don't know, it's like it just lost what the show originally started off to be. And then they did that whole Mean Girl Burn book thing, which was just a weird ripoff. And I'm just like, why are you doing that? And I think the reason why it shifted is because time has changed once again. Like, when did this show come out? Like 2024, I think. Around that time, messaging in the entertainment world has been less and less, especially in Hollywood, because of course white people got offended and white people started complaining, and also they started feeling guilty. So now, as you already know from all these YouTubers and stuff, how things go is all like, why are you making us feel guilty for? Like, we're the saviors of the world and everything. Like, you shouldn't make us feel guilty because we treat people of like different color and sexualities and gender wrong and everything. Like, why are you making us feel guilty and everything? And it's like, oh, this is woke, and that is woke. Why they gotta be black people in this show? Why they gotta be black people in this movie? Why they have to be women in this movie? Why is there like, a gay person in this movie or something like that? You've heard the typical crap that's been going on for over a decade. Studios are starting to pay attention to that. A lot of these people are not watching these shows or movies, and studios are losing, and networks are losing like money and stuff. But it's not because of woke culture. It's because they hire these horrible writers, showrunners, directors, and sometimes actors and actresses who don't know what they are doing. And that right there is the problem and stuff. It's not because you race swap this person or you added a female or gender swap. It's not because you turned this character gay or there happens to be a gay person or there happens to be an Asian person in this show or a Latino person or a black person or whatever. That is not the problem because white projects, they bomb as well. But you never hear them complain about that. The literal problem is these people could not write. They tried to, a lot of these predominantly black or Asian or like Latino characters or shows or whatever are mostly written by white people who think they understand but really don't. So what they started to do was like preach and kind of guilt trip people. And you saw this all throughout movies and television shows, left and right, don't matter what network it was or what studio it was. And it became a recurring pattern in Hollywood. It became the whole, okay, show why this race or this gender or this sexuality is oppressed by white people, shame them, and then in the middle of a sentence just throw out like, oh, you know, this white person is oppressing this person of color, and then start talking about something completely different. It was like the weirdest thing ever in Hollywood and in the entertainment business overseas. And it's because they could not write. And then a lot of these directors aren't really good at directing. And sometimes, and it doesn't matter the race of like how you cast somebody. The problem is sometimes they will cast people who just can't act. And so after so many complaints, I'm starting to now see, just like I said before, Hollywood and the entertainment business is going back to white. And I personally do not want to see that again. I love diversity. I love learning about other cultures and races and genders and sexualities and everything else. Because who the heck is going to teach you that? Nobody but television, unless you actually know a person. And, you know, I'm starting to see this now with the new Netflix Scooby-Doo. The entire cast is white. And not one member of the Scooby Gang is like diverse. And we've had diversity in Scooby-Doo in the past. One time there was an Asian, like actual like Chinese, like, you know, or maybe she's Japanese, I think the actress is, like Velma, years ago. Then we had a half black, half indigenous Daphne before, and nobody complained. But that Mindy Kaling project that she had, that like when she started as Velma, as an Indian Velma, and we had like a black Shaggy and an Asian Daphne and a white Fred who acted like a toxic white male. People lost their minds because one, that cartoon series was atrocious. It was just horrible, but Mindy Kaling starred in it and produced it. She just didn't create it. The creator literally wrote one of the like most worst pieces of crap I've ever seen. And of course, people blamed it on diversity. They blamed it on wokeness. They said, oh, well, the only reason why this is horrible is because there's so many, like they race bent every member of Scooby-Doo except for like Fred. But Fred is a typical toxic white male. And it's because of crap like that that's stuck in people's head to think diversity is bad. And then now you see they're going back to white. Well, that and this Netflix. Netflix loves white projects. Even when they adapted this one other cartoon that had like a diverse cast already in the cartoon, they made a Latino girl white in the show and changed her name. And originally she was supposed to play that character, just a white version. Then they brought in the real version of that character as her cousin. That's Netflix for you. And, you know, and I've seen this with I Know What You Did Last Summer, the 2025 movie, an all-white cast, with the only black person being the most light-skinned you could see. And then, of course, there's Scream 7, an all-white cast, and oh, look, 3 black people, but they're all mixed and light-skinned. So Hollywood is going back to the white formula and everything, which, like I said before, I don't want to see because there is nothing wrong with diversity. I do not want to see a predominantly white cast with one black person or one Asian person or one Latino person in their stereotype. I don't want to go back to that. There's a really good YouTube channel, two of them. One is called Remember When, and the other one's called Dial It Up, where they talk about failed television shows of the past. And they always go with a specific year. So one year they'll go with like 1986, next they'll go with 2003, then probably like 2019, something like that. And they only talk about shows that get canceled after one season or a couple of episodes. And as I'm watching that and shows I've never heard of, I'm looking at them just like, wow, all these shows are white, except for like maybe one or two shows that happen to be black. And then all these shows that are white, they either have an entire white cast or they'll have a fully white cast, but one lonely black person. And I'm just kind of like, man, television shows were so white back then. And I didn't realize that growing up. I just watched TV for TV. But I look back now, I'm just like, this is like such a white era of entertainment. And not only that, but these shows got canceled, and you don't hear nobody complain talking about, well, you know, the wokeness. Well, no, wait, these shows aren't woke because they're all white, so it still got canceled. And so, but you never hear them talk about that because they won't do that. They only do it when it's like the diverse stuff. Or when I watch, like, say, an old television show on YouTube, somebody uploaded and they left the commercials in. I see these commercials, all I see are white people. Nowadays, you see blendedness. You see biracial couples, biracial people, people of other colors in commercials. You see everything now. And it wasn't like that back in the day when I was growing up. So no, I do not want to go back to formula. I do not want to go back to white because of the simple fact that, like, it's such a prejudiced time. Like, people of color make up this world, you know what I'm saying? So this is one reason why I really enjoy this show. But it's also, I think, it's the reason why, like, you know, season 2 wasn't received very well and the show started to lose its identity. Season 3 is kind of a little bit like season 2. They try to get back on track, but there's still no black messaging and everything. The black messaging is either very non-existent or is very, very small. Like when Remy started to date a brand new character called Pixie, who is Cheddar's like sister. Cheddar and Pixie have a very rich white father, and they're very, 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 very privileged rich. And their father said he does not want Femi to date his daughter. He won't say why, but in the back of your head, you get why. And even Toby told him, man, you know exactly why that man don't want you dating his daughter, but they won't say the reason why. In season 1, they would have said the reason why. I believe the network told them cut out the messaging or lower it or tone it down, which made the show lose its identity for a lot of people. But like, besides all that, something in season 3 happened. Like I already told you, Hakeem left, but he's not the only one. There have been other characters that got completely written out the show, like Rupert. And so because characters like them was written out, it left a lot of the supporting cast and recurring characters with absolutely nothing to do. And they really couldn't think of what to do with these characters. They couldn't just write them all out the show, because they had to introduce new characters and stuff. Like they introduced 3 new characters that, in my opinion, should have never been cast in this show. It's not that they're bad, it's that they're kind of pointless and stuff. But they do what they're supposed to do. They're a supporting character. They support one of the main characters. But why couldn't you already have one of the other supporting characters that's been there since day one support these characters? So the original supporting cast and recurring cast are kind of just background characters or guest appearances in their own show. Like Beatrix or Florence, it's almost like the writers forgot about them but then remembered them and had to find a way to plug them into the show. They literally do nothing. They do kind of address what happened between them in season 2, but because Jakeem is not there no more, it doesn't really work. And then it's kind of like they just forgive each other all of a sudden, but it's like when and why, you know what I'm saying? But then not only that, but their personalities have now changed. Like Beatrix is way more comedic, and Florence is just kind of like, I don't care, whatever. And then all of a sudden, both of them are now into art. And it's just like, when? You know what I'm saying? And so I do, and it makes you wonder, why was Jakeem and Rupert written out? Now, Rupert is the white racist dude who later goes with Omar. I think both actors had like other projects. I think Josh, who plays Jakeem, I think he was in a short film, and I think the Rupert actor was in like another show. So it kind of threw a monkey wrench into the writing process, and things had to be changed around. Because I've noticed now with the 4 main black characters, it seems like a little bit of Jakeem's personalities or story arcs went into them, which is kind of weird because that's not really who they are. Like Toby is kind of like the new Jakeem, to where he rallies the group around and tries to get them back on track. But that's not who he is. He's just kind of like the slacker, the hustler, that type of person. He's not like the Jakeem type that's kind of like the leader, you know what I'm saying? But now he's the leader. It reminds me of I can't talk. Mistresses, when Alyssa Milano left the show and the actress who played her sister had to take over as lead. It did not work out because Josh was the wild party girl, but Josh being the center of attention and the more serious one just did not work. And so there are some things in this season that just doesn't work for me and everything, because there's so many characters that are either missing or just simply don't do nothing. And then they add 3 new characters, and while they're not bad, it's just some of them are not fully fleshed out, you know? And I don't know, like even though season 2 has its problems, I think season 2 is better than season 3 in some regards, but there are some aspects of season 3 that are like better. Like Femi has become a lot better of a character and stopped chasing after like the white dudes and doing whatever they want to do and stuff like that. But it's kind of like, how did Femi go from abandoning his black friends and only having white friends to, in the second season, wanting to be like an actor, to now all of a sudden wanting to be like, I can't remember what the name of this thing is called, but it's like a head position at the school, kind of like the student body president, but they call it something completely different over there. And it's like, how did he go from that to that to that? Yes, it does round out his character and fleshes his character out more and gives some growth and development. But I truly believe that was a position for Jakeem. Then there is the whole like Leah and Felix thing, which feels more like that should have been a Omar and Rupert thing. And just other little things like that. And it's just kind of like Leah being stressed out this season. That felt like it should have been a Jakeem thing. So the writing is a bit rushed at times. Daniel Lawrence Taylor, he is the one who created this show. He's an executive producer and he's one of the head writers. I hope he gets some kind of award or just acknowledgement of like, creating this show. 'Cause it is like a really fun show. Like, I'm so sad to see these characters go. Like, in the final scene of the show, it ended kind of the way it started. Well, minus the peeing on a homeless man thing. But it's like him driving, the five students back home. That's kind of how the show started. After they was told they was going to this prep school, it was him driving them to the new school in this beat up old van. And it's just this long ride and nobody says anything. And you kind of hear, I don't know if you hear music at the end of the episode, but it's like, you know, you see the car driving down the road and you see them inside. And then all of a sudden, one by one, all the characters just start crying and everything. And not only is it an emotional thing for the actors, because, I think one of them said, the one who plays Femi said, they didn't want it to end, but they knew at some point it was going to end. But like the fact that they're crying is like, it's not so much that it could be also a part of they was given this great opportunity to like better themselves, in a better school and all these adventures and they finna go off into like the real world and, to a better college, something they would never been able to do before. But they're crying because they know for a fact this is it. They're about to go their separate ways, Jakeem, he's about to go back to America, and he said that he might actually just stay there. Leah wants to go to Oxford. Toby wants to go to I forgot the name of the school. It's a really famous British school. I forget. I can't think of it right now. Crap. Let's see. There's Oxford, and then I think it's something with a C. But anyway, he wants to go like there, and then Femi, of course, he wants to be like an actor. But like he's now pursuing this internship that's really gonna better his life. And as for Omar, poor Omar, man, this dude has literally been stuck in a rut for like 3 seasons. He's not going to like art school, but he's just gonna explore the world. So they might never see each other again. And and it started with them. They was friends before they went to this prep school. And, they've known each other for years, and now it's like, it's over, and you know how it is in the real world. Like, sometimes when you leave, like, high school or college or a job or whatever, it's like you don't see your old friends no more. You might occasionally talk online. For the most part, that's what a lot of people do now. But I remember back in the old days, before there was like social media, they didn't really do that. And even now with social media, some people still don't keep in touch and stuff, It's just they go their separate ways and they just move on. And to those five, they're like family and everything, All right, so let's get into some character bios. It really is a shame that like a lot of these characters kind of just got like sidelined and everything. Like, I'm not trying to laugh, but it's just a shame because it's kind of like, for 3 seasons, they helped accompany the main five, and and it's just kind of, they're almost like an afterthought at this point. Oh, poor characters. So I guess I'll start with Jakeem. I was very, very shocked and pissed that his character just left. Because for the most part, he is in episode 1. But he doesn't really do much, and he rarely talks to like the group of 5. He talks to his roommate and gives his roommate a hug and tells him, I have decided to go to MIT. Then he doesn't even tell his friends he left. They found out when they went to his empty room and stuff, and then they video called him. And it was just a crappy move not to say goodbye to them, I feel, you know? And but then it's like he only shows back up midway just to do another video call, and then he shows up at the very, very end after the other kids graduate. And he said he tried to get like an earlier flight but couldn't. And so they all hug and they're happy to see him again. I would be pissed. Like when me and my friends were like we don't talk and somebody go their separate ways and they just end it like that. We don't talk no more. Like we like screw you, bye. Like when this one friend of ours, she got married. Next thing you know, this is back in the MySpace days. To tell you how long ago this was. She unfriended all her guy friends when she got married. And me and my one friend, boy, we were pissed off. And so, yeah, it's just, I assume maybe we'll get to follow him in America, but like, no, it's just like he's just up and gone. Now, like I said before, I assume it's because he was probably filming a short film, but I don't really know the reason as to why he really left. But it was really crappy. And you do feel that void, like you miss that, like there's a void without him, you know? And they kind of split off some of his personality traits and storylines into like other characters. And but it's like I guess for the most part, most of his story is wrapped up. Like he made amends with his mom in season 2. But that whole storyline with his mom is just kind of like, it was like wishy-washy to me. Like, it should have been stronger, especially with the actress they had, because she just won like a Oscar for like Sinners and stuff. And, you know, like, then there's the whole him and Beatrix and Florence thing. Like, he made a huge mess of that by like cheating on Beatrix with Florence, her best friend. And the thing about that is like the thing about Jakeem is he's not perfect, but he's meant to be kind of like the leader of the group. People go to him with advice. They kind of like look up to him. Like he's kind of that ipso facto leader. And even the people at school, like the deans and the headmister and the mistresses and all that, they appointed him head boy, hoping he would assimilate his group into the fold and kind of make them more preppy and act more white and everything like that. And for a time, he did fall for that until he realized what they was doing. And so it's just kind of like he's a lot smarter than people give him credit for. You know, and not only that, but he was probably the most urban out of all of them. Like he had a friend that was kind of sketchy from back in the day. And, you know, at first him and his roommate didn't get along, and then eventually they did. And then, you know, then there's the whole thing with Beatrix and everything, and like her storyline of him, that was like fascinating because you gotta remember, for the most part, you know, he didn't interact with white people and she didn't interact with black people. And so she's like a very girly girl, white girl. And so that was kind of like, you know, what's gonna come of this and everything, story wise and stuff. Like, why exactly does she like him? You know, like, you know what I'm saying? Because she liked him the first time she saw him, you know? So it's kind of like, you know, is it one of those, oh, forbidden like fruit kind of things? Like, oh, your parents say don't date this person, you do it anyway. Or does she just always have an attraction to black people? We've never seen her really date nobody really after that. I think she might have, but I can't remember. Or could it just be, like I said before, she just probably really likes black dudes? I remember back when I was in like high school, you know, I live in the South and there's like tons of rednecks over here. All my female friends always be hugging the crap out of me, and it's just like these big puppy eyes, and you know, because their parents say, hey, you know, you don't you mess around with no black person. I remember one time, this one girl, like, oh, her family was really redneck and everything. And I remember one time it was like some kind of like school event at like late in the afternoon or something like that, or maybe during the day. And I went to go like, you know, say hey to her, and she had to like put her hand by her side, like the stop signal, because she was around her parents. So that gave me the clue that, okay, I'm looking at them. They're older. They're very country looking. Yeah, I got the signal. All right. Like, you got to stay away or my parents going to flip out. and everything. And then there used to be this one girl I used to walk home school with every afternoon. And we will hug, say goodbye, but when we got too close to her house, she's like, okay, you kind of gotta like get a little bit further away from me in case my dad see you and everything. And that's just how, apparently that's how it was in the late 90s. But it wasn't even the late 90s. It was the early 2000s. Like I graduated in 2001. And there are some people who, yes, still to this day, that are still like that. So it does make me wonder, why did Beatrix like him so much? I remember they had that one conversation when he took her to his old neighborhood, and it's much different than what she's used to. They was getting in some kind of argument. I think he even asked, like, well, you afraid or something like that, like to be around all these people. And so they had a really unique relationship, and it just really, and then he cheated on her and stuff. And then it went completely nowhere. Now in season 3, they don't even talk in like season 3. So I might as well get them out the way. So let's talk about the new trio and everything. It's kind of the old trio. Like this show loves to do threes. Everything's in a three group, threesome. So like it's Beatrix with the reddish hair. It's Florence with the blonde hair. And then there is, you can either swap either one. It's either Abby or it could be like Yelena. But since the new one this season with Yelena, let's do Yelena. I could not believe what little screen time they got. Like, first things first, let's talk about the whole Beatrix Florence thing. So without Rupert and without Jakeem, these two don't have a storyline whatsoever. And they're just kind of there lingering around in the background and stuff. And so for the most part, they still won't talk to each other. Like Florence passed by her in the first episode and she just turned her head to her. Beatrix did, and she's all like, still not talking to me. And because she cheated with her boyfriend this season. Then all of a sudden, when all this rival school stuff starts happening, Yolena brings them into the fold. Then all of a sudden, they're interacting with each other and now they're friends again. But when did they make up? It's never shown. Then they kept getting inserted into like every weird plot line that would go on with another character. Like they was involved with the whole Phil Hockey plot line, which they've always played Phil Hockey, but now they're fighting with Abby. Not only that, but then there's that whole, I think it's Dominus something. It's kind of like student body president, which Femi is doing. And all of a sudden, Florence is running for it. And Beatrix is like the host and she's very comedic. And it's like, that's not her personality whatsoever. Not only that, but she seems to know Femi very well, which is something I've now noticed in this season. All of the like recurring side characters that were partnered with the main cast in other seasons, they never really interacted with each other, like the side friends and everything. So they never really interacted with like the main five unless they was partnered or paired with that person. Now all of a sudden they all know each other and everything. And now all of a sudden the three of these people do art. Since when? That's not their thing. They've never done that. But like, I guess it's a thing now. And they really got sidelined this season, which is a real bummer because, a lot of people really like these characters, especially Yolena. Yolena's always been a recurring character. She was never a supporting character, but she always had that presence. She's this tiny little Romanian girl who is just mean and ruthless and has that mob mentality to her, like a mobster. Like in season 1, she literally was gonna break Toby's kneecaps because I think he owed her money or something like that and he didn't pay up. So she was just this ferocious little girl. But then that's really just about her character that season. I forgot what the heck she did in season 2. 'Cause I don't remember her at all. Now in season 3, she just wants revenge on the other school for trashing their school and revenge on Abby because she was part of it and stuff. But then she gets pissed because her art project got messed up along with everybody else's. And then all of a sudden, she just forgives the person who did it because he made a funny looking statue and everybody else forgave him. Florence, Beatrix, the Devon, I think that's her name. And it's just kind of like everybody just forgave him, and it's just kind of like this needed to be written stronger and everything. Mabel and Devon. So Zane is on the side. So Mabel's the one with red hair, and Devon is the black one. Devon is actually American and transferred there. Still don't know why she transferred there in season 2, but she did. And so her and Mabel ended up in a relationship. For the most part, Mabel was always the supporting character of Leah's. She's one of those type of white people that is kind of like an internal activist, kind of like, oh, she hears something's bad about one race or one gender or whatever, and she just joins the group. And even if she doesn't know much about them, she'll like join in on the group. And so she has this real fascination with black people and stuff. That's how she's been ever since season 1. Also, she was a closeted lesbian who I think she liked it Leah at the time. And so, but for the most part, there's not much to her other than her activism and stuff, where she would just randomly join a group. Devon, she was the new girl, and originally she started being paired with that Aaliyah. They trashed the headmistress car, they were protesting something. She's everything Leah is, but better and everything. And even Mabel likes her to the point of dating her, which made Leah jealous in season 2, and she tried to ruin their relationship. And it really pulled the Leah character down a peg or two because, Leah, 'cause Leah has flaws as well. All of them have flaws. They're not perfect. But it was shocking to see Leah do this because Leah's all about, black activism and, black pride. And so is Devon. And that's what she liked about her until she started getting jealous. So this season, they paired Devon with Omar, and apparently Devon likes art. Didn't like it last season, but whatever. And so she is the one who encourages Omar to start doing art again after he got rejected from that art school. And for the most part, that's really her role. And then she was upset because somebody trashed her art project along with everybody else. Somebody turned the it's like fire sprinkler things on the ceiling, when they smoke detector type, like sprinkler type things. And so like when he confessed, she was really pissed and like upset with him. Now I do like the idea they mix match a lot of the supporting characters with the other main characters. But it is kind of weird because you've never seen them interact before in no capacity. So it felt kind of out of place to see her hang out all of a sudden with like Omar and stuff. But other than that, she doesn't do nothing. She doesn't even have not one scene with Leah, which, that was the whole thing last season. Felix. Felix is the son of the headmistress and the brother of Rupert. I don't remember him at all in season 1 and 2, but online it says he was there and that he was in 16 of the 18 episodes. I don't remember him whatsoever. But anyways, he wants to go to Japan with his father and Rupert, but his mom wants him to stay there because she doesn't want to be alone because her husband is divorcing her and also getting married to another woman. So she forces him to do a presentation with Leah for these board of directors that are coming to school. For the most part, he's a little bit of a slacker. He takes these caffeine tablets. He's not very focused and he has an overdose. I don't really understand understand the point of this character this season. His storyline with Leah feels more like a Omar and a Rupert thing. You kind of get the hint that maybe he might like Leah, but he doesn't. But it's just like, I don't know. Like, I don't really see the point of his character this season. And the whole thing about his mom is that she would do anything to make sure he has like a passing grade and does good, even if she has to bribe people. She uses her money and her privilege. And, and then his mom doesn't like Leah whatsoever, but he doesn't like help his mom like Leah anymore. So I don't know, like he's not bringing out the best or the worst in like Leah, other than stressing her out more and stuff. But when it comes to his mom, who doesn't like black people, by the way, he tells her the reason why he wants to leave her and all this other stuff. And I guess it's because like how she is, but it's not really explained that well. It's more of she's very strict and always wants everything her way. So because of that and how she saw that he overdosed and everything, she decides to resign. Okay, I don't get it. The head mistress, Rupert and Felix's mom. I forget her name. I want to call her Carol, but I don't know. It might be Carol. I just don't really know. But it might be. So I'm going to call her Carol. She was pretty much the antagonist for season 1 and 2. She does not like black people, period. But she pretends to by having a Black Lives Matter bumper sticker on her car. She looks down on black people. She is very rich, wealthy, snooty, a bit of a Karen, and she just looks down on black people. She does not want the 5 or the group of 5 to be at that school so much that she tried to kick 2 of them out last season by only allowing 3 of them to stay if they got if they passed their grades and classes and stuff. She is the reason why Rupert is so racist and why he's so messed up with drugs and this and that, and the same thing with Felix. This season, when the school got completely vandalized, she assumed Leah did it all by herself, only because Leah wrecked that statue / painting or whatever it was and wrecked her car last season with like the paint along with Devon. And so, but it's like, how can one person wreck the entire school? But yeah, she's gonna blame her, and as punishment, she puts her in that presentation with Felix. When the school got wrecked, the field hockey players, the girls decided to get revenge and whoop the crap out of their rival school when they played field hockey. They whooped their behinds. One girl, I forget who, took the hockey stick and busted a dude's front teeth out. So she tried to bribe her way with the principal of the rival school, but she would not take it. And it's shown that the rival, head mistress is a lot better. She actually punished her students for what they did. But Carol decided, oh, I'm just going to bribe my way out of it. But she would not take the bribery, the other head mistress. Other than that, she doesn't really do much. And she's not the antagonist of this season, even though she still doesn't like Leah and still treats her nasty and doesn't even want her at her house and stuff. But it's like she pressures her son so much that he overdosed on caffeine tablets and stuff and tried to blame it all on Leah. Only to realize Leah had nothing to do with that. After a heart-to-heart with her son as to why he doesn't want nothing to do with her and doesn't want to be there, she decides she's going to take the easy way out and just resign instead of turning into a better person. This should have been like a learning lesson for her. She should have learned something, redeemed herself after all these seasons and everything. Like when they redeemed Rupert at the end of season one, just because he turned out to be gay, that was too rushed. But here we have three whole seasons, and it's like she should have learned some type of valuable lesson. Not just because her son overdosed, her husband don't want nothing to do with her, and her other son doesn't want nothing to do with her. Omar's boyfriend, he was one of those raisinette people who was helping Omar back in season one and season two. They started dating this season, but Omar's kind of like he just doesn't know. Like he feels very awkward. And, I forget this dude's name, but he's coming on very strong, even to the point where he gives Femi his ring and tells, not Femi, but Omar to wear his ring. But it's to the point where Omar keeps blowing him off to the point where he's just so frustrated with that he decides to break up with him because he wanted Omar to meet his mother. He was moving extremely fast, wanted him to meet his folks, wanted him to wear his class ring and everything. And I guess Omar just really wasn't ready to take that step. Omar is weird this season. I'll get to him when I get to him in his bio. But yeah, those two just break up after, especially what all this dude did for him in those other seasons and stuff. And he was willing to like, but that's the thing with Omar. Omar has the worst luck with guys. Zane, I feel bad for this dude, man. Like, he got treated so badly this season. Like, it's not even funny. Like, so in season one, he was paired with Jakeem as a roommate. They had a bit of a tense relationship at first, but then later became like, friends and stuff. In season two, for whatever reason, they paired him with Leah doing like the mathletes or something like that, to where he asked her out to like their prom. And so she got drunk and they slept together and then left off on that cliffhanger. This next season, he's really, really into her because they slept together and he does like her because he asked her out. She is being her weird little self, and because she's so stressed out and busy, she doesn't have time for him. Plus, like always, she messes up every relationship she's in, and she starts to have eyes for another guy, blowing Zane completely off when they had a date. But when those two are trapped in the closet, people are always trapped in something. Closets, the trunk of a car. She basically tells him, like, look, it's just not going to work out, this and that, and we can still be friends and stuff like that. And I felt bad for this dude because he really, truly liked her. And any person who's ever been in that position knows exactly how he feels. But then the most unexpected thing happened. After they graduated, him and Yelena just kissed as like a happy celebratory type kiss. But then they went buck wild and started making out. And it's just kind of like, where the heck did this come from? And it's just kind of like, when did these two like each other? These two have never spoken to each other. And I feel like it was just done as like a shock value type thing, which I hate when they do that. It's kind of the same thing with last season when Leah and Zane slept together out of shock value. And I truly believe the writers had nothing going forward for them in season three because it was supposed to be like, hey, it's a little shocking thing, but we really don't want to commit to it. And honestly, him and Leah just would never have worked out. He's too happy, jolly, and she's just too much in her own kind of world. Plus, when you see the kind of guys she dates, he's nothing like them. She likes more suave, debonair kind of guys that might be wrong for her or right for her, but she also likes black dudes. So it was kind of weird that she got with him, but then again, she was drunk. Benjamin, he is Leah's new love interest this season, and he is a brand new character. Like I said before, honestly, they could have wrote all the new characters out and just filled it in with the recurring characters, and I would have been fine. But nevertheless, he is an interesting character. He comes off creepy at first. See, at first, he goes to the rival school and he sees Leah in the bleachers and she's checking him out. He's checking her out. So clearly she is into him. Then when he starts to try to talk to her, she wants nothing to do with him because she's like, oh, I'm kind of in a relationship with another guy, meaning Zane. But it's like, why are you checking him out, giving him the look, making him interested in stuff? Then when he starts talking to Omar, he sees that Omar is really good at drawing and becomes friends with him. Now, here's the interesting thing with him and Omar. When Omar's boyfriend walks in and gives him a kiss on the cheek, he realizes Omar is gay. And he gives Omar a look, but it's not a look of disgust and it's not a look of happiness. It's just kind of a look, like surprise kind of look. So which way is this going to go? I thought him and Omar were going to have some type of relationship because the only guys they pair Omar with, other than the group of five, tends to be people he dates. But nothing came of that. He just really likes Omar's drawings and became Omar's friend. But he's pressuring Omar to give him Leah's number, and Omar doesn't want to do that because he's all like, she's not into you, and I shouldn't be giving out her number, but he did it anyways. Because I think Benjamin gave him like a comic that wasn't even released yet. So then he starts calling Leah up, which is kind of creepy. And she's all like, what are you doing? It's like stalking me now and everything. Like, how'd you get my number? But then she blows her date off with Zane to go and hang out with him and go to, what was it, a Caribbean restaurant or something like that. And him and her are really starting to click to where you think they're going to date. But then they never really do because she's way too busy. Then when the school that Leah and them go to saw that he was wearing the other school colors, they chased him around campus about to beat his butt, but Omar saved them. Next thing you know, he pops up in the most random place. When Leah ran away from school because she didn't want to do the exams, he showed up at the train station with her. And it's just kind of like, how did he even know she was there? Now he really is starting to feel like a stalker. But Toby had Omar call him and figured Lee would be at the train station and, to kind of like distract her long enough so they can get to her and stuff. Those two, I believe, are going to start like a dating relationship. And yeah, they do seem like a cute kind of couple, but he did come off kind of creepy in the beginning because he was really like, pushy and stuff. Abby. The best storyline Abby ever had was season 1 because Abby is biracial, black and white. Her dad has some kind of like weirdness towards black people, the way he will treat them and look down on them, even though he's with a black family. And she only hung out with white people and always wanted her hair to be straight. They didn't want it to be curly or have no type of black hairstyle or nothing like that. It was Leah that brought her blackness out and taught her about black hair and all this other stuff. Then all of a sudden she changed and all of a sudden she likes black people and she started dating Toby. Her and Toby is a really cute relationship and it came a very long way. They probably had the best relationship out of anybody in this show. However, this season, she's now going to the other school, and for whatever reason, she helped the other school trash her old school. It's never explained why. And so when Toby finds out, he doesn't snitch on her, but the other girls like Yelena and everybody else finds out and they want to pretty much beat her butt. This causes a rift between her and her original friends like Yelena, Beatrix, and Florence. But nothing comes of that. And then at the very end, when Omar does something stupid and then confesses because they're about to fight her again, then they all just apologize to each other. And it's just like, what was the fight even about? Why did she trash the school? I don't get it. But other than that, she's once again paired with Toby, which she should, they're dating. She, after banging him so many times and dating him and see what a great guy he is because he'll do anything for her, like last season with the prom location, she finally, like, tells him she loves him and everything, which he kind of doesn't say back at first, but then later does. He's even going to change his future plans for her. She wants to go back riding, no, horseback riding in Europe, and Cambridge, that's where Toby was going to go. And he's going to not go to Cambridge and just go horseback riding with her. But he needs more money and this and that. Things get even more complicated because, when she meets Toby's mom, which kind of surprised me at first because I kind of knew he was light skinned and I didn't really think maybe he could be biracial, but he is. So his mom is white. Don't know where his dad is because they don't show. That's what I hate about modern television nowadays. Every time there's a biracial black character, they only show the white parent, never the black. And whether it's TV shows or movies, they always do that crap. And so his mom doesn't like her at first. I'm kind of like, why not? Like it was never really explained because she gave her a nasty look and didn't really want to talk to her. I'm all like, it can't be because the girl's half black because your son is half black. But no, it's because it's kind of like, oh, he really likes you, his mother type thing, and he's changing his plans for her. And she tells him, look, we worked really hard to try to get him into Cambridge and everything, and now he's gonna throw all that away just to go horseback riding with you and everything. So it gets to the point where when she thinks and assumes he's gonna propose to her because he was in a jewelry store and her old friends told him that, she breaks up with him on the last day of school, telling him, like, I don't do long distance relationships. Because that's the reason why he was going to forget Cambridge. She told him straight up early in the show she don't do long distance. So he wanted to stay with her. But she realizes he's going to need Cambridge more than he needs her. So she was going to break up with him and everything. But he was actually going to break up with her as well, and did not buy her a ring, but bought her a horse necklace. And it was really sad when those two had to break up and everything. But, they realized it's probably for, like, the best. Now, I do wish they would have had her dad back in the show because that was some of the best storylines she had from season 1. Like, what is her dad's problem with black people? And he was married to a black woman and has a half black, like, daughter. And there's so many white people like that are like, and black people too, where it's like, they'll date outside their race, but they don't like their partner's race and everything. Pixie. Pixie is a brand new character, and she is the sister of Cheddar. Cheddar, which I don't know what his real name is, but they just call him that. Cheddar is one of the friends of Femi. So when she has theater class with Femi, she starts putting the moves on him big time. When they're supposed to have a scene together, they're kissing, she's grabbing his butt, she's really into him. When Graham, who is the friend of Femi and Cheddar, find this out, he tells, like, Femi, yo man, you can't date your best friend's sister. That's just like not cool. And he's all like, what you gonna do? Like, you gonna risk your friendship for a girl, risk your internship, like this and that. So, but Femi does it anyway. And so she is just really into Femi. She kind of took the role of Beatrix from season 1, to where when she first saw a black person, she just fell like head over heels for them, And so it's kind of like, why? Why does she like him so much? Why does she want to sleep with him so bad? Well, we find out in the last episode why. Her father doesn't like it when blacks and whites date and everything. He likes Femi, but he doesn't want Femi to have nothing to do with his daughter. So it's one of those, oh, you tell me not to date somebody, I'm gonna do it anyway. A lot of people are like that, especially girls when they're told not to date a bad boy. There's this one star, I can't say what kind of like star she is. But let's just say she gets around. She said in the interview, and she's older, by the way, too. I think she's like 80 or 70 or something like that. And she said growing up, her father told her, don't you mess around with no black men. And remember, she's been around since before the 1950s. So she married a white man, a preacher and stuff like that. When she divorced him, she's been with nothing but black men, and a lot because of her job. I watched that interview on YouTube and I was just kind of like, see, I knew it. When you say don't do this, people do the complete opposite. So that's why she's really into Femi. But is she really into him? We will never know because, the season's over now. But like, she even rigged the student body president thing for Remy when she bribed somebody like $2,000 or something like that. Or she did something with the votes to where, she does what her brother does and her father does, bribe people with money because they're really, really rich and everything. Well, her and Femi are barely able to hang out and hook up because he's always having to stay away from her. And so it's at the point where she just thinks he doesn't like her, even to the point where he hid her in the closet and forgot to get her. Because Cheddar came in and stuff. Anyways, at the end, she's not supposed to date Femi, but him and her stage it to where they broke up, tricking her brother. So now they're gonna fool around and do this and that. Femi's trio group, the one he ditched his friends for in season 1, but mostly Cheddar. Now, the third guy they got rid of this season completely wrote him out and they didn't explain what happened to him. So now it's just those two, a duo, and hanging out with Femi. So it's mostly Cheddar I'm going to talk about because Graham just rats out Femi and everything and tells him don't date Cheddar's sister. The trio, or duo I should say now, it's hard to figure them out. Are they just a bunch of lovable goofy guys, or are they just a bunch of white privileged jerks and everything? For the most part, they've always been portrayed as goofy lovable guys. But the most part, they don't really look down on Femi. They know he's poor and and that doesn't really bother them that much, but they will bring it up and it kind of offends him. In season 2, they wanted to go on this really cool trip during the summer, but Femi can't afford it. So we don't care. We know you're poor and everything, but we'll just pay for you and everything. Just come and hang out with us and get drunk. So they're nice to him, but in a smuggy kind of way, Now, this season, the show needed a new antagonist, and Cheddar and Graham happen to be that, mostly Cheddar. So Cheddar has no idea that Pixie and Femi are hooking up. And so he wants to get Femi an internship with his father. And so, so Femi can better his ways and everything. We find out that Cheddar really adores his father, but his father just doesn't really think of him like that. So Cheddar will do whatever it takes to get in his dad good graces and everything. And so when they find out that, I guess the internship could be only for one person, I guess it was going to go to Femi, and that kind of really upset that of Cheddar because he wanted to hang out with his dad and impress his dad. Not only that, but they're both going for the student body president thing. And this is when we see the nasty side of Cheddar coming out. He does what he always does, bribe the school with money and alcohol, telling them he'll get them into a good college and everything like that. He had the election in the bag. And he even made fun of Femi and even made fun of Mabel as well. We start to see his arrogant white privilege come out and everything. When he lost the election, he just couldn't take it. He didn't understand how he lost and figured Femi must have cheated. And then he found out it was his sister that cheated for Femi and everything. So he bribed this one dude $3,000 to like expose Femi and everything. And so, like, but we do get to see a very, very, very nasty side of Cheddar coming out, talking down to Femi and everything. And it makes you think, wow, maybe he's really not Femi's friend. Or at least when it comes to whatever it is he wants and can't get, he will turn into the straight devil and everything. And so, like, but Femi and Pixie, they find out that, like, Cheddar has been stealing his father's money in order to get what he wants. So when he blackmails Cheddar's like really impressed. He's all like, well played and everything, and lets it go until Femi and Pixie decide to celebrate by doing it in the classroom, which Graham saw from across the hall or courtyard or something. He calls up Cheddar and he calls up that of well, I guess he calls Cheddar and Cheddar tells his dad or whatever, knowing that Femi will have to choose either the internship or like his sister and everything. Now, Cheddar wants his sister to date Femi because he wants to be Femi's brother-in-law and stuff. But because, he tells something like, man, me and you could have been brother-in-laws and everything, but you don't F with me and everything. I wanted that student body president thing and that internship, and you took both from me. That really did let me know that this dude really doesn't have Femi's best intentions when there is something that he wants and everything. He will stab you in the back and he will stab you in the front. And this is very unexpected because Cheddar has never acted this way before. And so, this is when Femi and Pixie have a fake fight to break up. So Femi is going to still take the internship, still be the student body president, and I guess he's still going to be friends with Cheddar and Graham? There's no way I could still be friends with that dude after how he treated me. But of course, they just faked it and they're still gonna have their relationship in secret and stuff. This was really unexpected of Cheddar. I get it, they had to have an antagonist, but this was so unexpected from him. But it goes to show you just how some people are when they're either upset, jealous, or afraid. It reminds me of Star Trek Deep Space Nine when the Federation was at war with the Dominion. And Quark, whose nephew had just lost his leg, he told his nephew or somebody, these humans and everything, they will act nice to you, they'll smile to you and everything. But you take something away that they like or whatever, and they will turn into just some of the worst people in the world, because he didn't want his nephew fighting alongside the humans in the Federation. And that's kind of how Cheddar is, if there's something he wants, the man will be the most toxic person in the world. Omar. I feel like Omar this season got the least character development and the least to do. In the first two seasons, he was just obsessed with this whole raising net thing and trying to find this secret society. Also, him trying to have a relationship because, in the first season, he was bullied by his roommate, Rupert, but then Rupert turned out to be bi, and it turned out that Omar is secretly gay. So then they had a thing. But then in season 2, he had two love interests. One was this really nice guy that he just blew off for the whole Raisinette thing. And then one of the Raisinette members secretly had a crush on him. This is the dude he's dating this season whose name I have forgotten. And it's a guy, once again, he completely blows off. But why exactly did he blow this guy off? Not that kind of blow off. But why exactly did he he kept getting distracted by his artwork. And so, because this dude was moving pretty fast, wanted him to meet his mom, giving him his ring, this and that. But he did have a person who was generally into him and everything, which is something he's always wanted. But when it came to his art, originally he was done with art. He signed up for an art school and they rejected him. Why exactly they rejected him, he doesn't know. Excuse me, but it was enough for him just to give up on art completely. Femi tried to get him back into art, but it didn't work. But then somehow, I think her name is Devon or Diabion. I can't remember her name, but Mabel's girlfriend somehow got him back into art. How exactly, I don't know. How exactly they know each other, really. I mean, yeah, they're part of the friend group, but they've never really interacted before. But it was enough for him to get back into art. So much so that, he barely left his dorm and, didn't really shower that much. Then, of course, he befriended Benjamin, who also appreciated his art and got him more focused into it. So it's like, okay, where's this leading to, right? So he wanted to put his art statue in the, art exhibit. But Carol would not let him. Why? Well, of course, because she's a bigot. But it's also probably because of how his statue looks. It's a beautiful statue, but it does kind of look like there are three versions of himself kind of doing himself. And everything. But it was supposed to represent something else. What exactly it was supposed to represent, don't know. The writers never truly let us know and how he's feeling because he's not really developed as a character this season. But when he was so inspired to put his thing in the exhibit, he asked his friends for help to break it into the exhibit, which they all declined, which is weird because normally they would be all for that to help each other out. But he does it on his own. And so with his blowtorch, he wanted to put the final touchings on his art piece. You think it's this big, I love the way it's filmed. You think it's this big momentous moment. He's finally coming to terms with kind of who he is and his art and everything. But his blowtorch and everything set off the alarm sprinkler system and everything. And everybody's art piece got ruined. He freaks out and runs out, but he left his blowtorch. He didn't tell not one person what happened, but people found the blowtorch and it's all like, this is yours. What were you doing here? He lies and said, when the school got broken into and vandalized, they must have stole his blowtorch because he hasn't found it in weeks. So everybody believes him except for Toby and everything, because Toby can tell when a dude's lying and everything. Plus he saw him with his blowtorch days after. So did his boyfriend, but both of them will not rat him out because they don't want to be snitches and everything, and that's what Toby told him, I ain't gonna snitch. And so he was literally at first gonna let the two field hockey team players beat the crap out of each other from both schools and everything, until the guilt finally got to him and he finally confessed. But here's the thing. The reason why he didn't confess earlier is because the girls' field hockey team, who just all happened to be in the art exhibit, coincidence, because they had to cram them in somehow into the show, they wanted blood. And Yelena literally talked about breaking bones with her hockey stick. So that scared the crap out of him. But then when he confessed, all of a sudden everybody not only forgave him, but wanted to take a picture of his art project. And it's like, what happened to that blood rage that they had? They just all of a sudden just forget. That was way too rushed. I wish they could have developed his character way more this season. I wish he could have had a happy ending with a partner, because that's something he always wanted. But nevertheless, he's leaving that school, not going into an art college or going to any college period. He said he's just gonna like, travel the world and go to art museums and stuff like that by himself. And it's kind of like, where you gonna get the money from? It's already been established since season one. Y'all ain't got no money. So I feel like they kind of just gave up on his character. Now, I will say the actor is very talented and his facial expressions are always top notch. Another character I feel like got kind of downgraded was Leah. She's been on a downward spiral ever since like season two. And once again, she's making mistakes, but not in the way you think she would. Now, this season, normally in the first two seasons, she is an advocate. She will advocate for something like black injustice, stuff like that. This season, she's not advocating nothing. She's not taking a political stance on nothing. This season, she just wants to pass with flying colors, but she is extremely stressed out because one, the head mistress Carol blames her for the vandalism in the school, so she forced her into a presentation with her son. But then Carol later found out it wasn't Leah, but still wants her to do the presentation. So she has to like cram for her final exams and do this presentation with a person who is a slacker. On top of that, she has Zane, who wants to be in a relationship with her, but she doesn't want to be in a relationship with him because it was just a one night thing and she was drunk. On top of that, in the first episode, she thought she might have been pregnant because her period was late, but she's not pregnant. On top of that, one of her closest friends left without telling anybody, and with all the stress building up, her hair is falling out. And to make matters worse, she has a guy from another school who she does kind of like, but keeps pretending like she doesn't like, and he keeps trying to pursue her. So she's going through just typical teenage stuff. Not that big of a compelling storyline, but the fact that she is stressed out, before final exams is like a really good story arc. I wish they could have built that up much stronger. Now, her partner in the presentation OD'd on caffeine tablets. Reminded me of like Jesse from Saved by the Bell. Now they did to make it first, make people first think that maybe it was Leah who OD'd on it, but no, it was Felix. Plus, we've never seen her take any, so we knew it wasn't her. That setup wasn't done very well, and of course, she's still having to deal with the whole Carol thing, because Carol just doesn't like her and stuff. It's to the point where she panics so badly that she just runs away from school, packs all her stuff up on the day of exams. Mabel couldn't find her and let her friends know. So Toby rounded up the guys to go look for her. And when they found her, they had Benjamin, stall her at the skating rink so they can bring her back to school. She wants to go to Oxford, but I feel like when it came to her and Omar, they couldn't really think of too much to do with her. Her story isn't that developed that much other than her being stressed out. But we do see the reasons why she's stressed, mostly because of guy trouble in school. I just wish it could have been written more strongly, and maybe for a more compelling arc, maybe they could have had her OD on caffeine tablets or something like that. Yeah, it would have sucked to see a black girl and everything OD on pills, but it would have been a storyline nevertheless. Now, one thing I found was a quote from the actress who plays Leah. When this show started and everything, this was supposed to be about showing a black perspective and everything, and real life scenarios that black people have to go through. That's one thing that was pivotal in season one, and the creator wanted to show. And so the Leah actress, she said that, she found a lot of her own experiences in this show because she went to that of a prep school and on a scholarship and everything. And a lot of the stuff that happens in this show is very reminiscent to what she witnessed when she went there. Same thing with the actor who played Jakeem and everything. And so this is one of the things that make this show so great is that it feels, even though it's a sitcom and there's like hijinks, silly hijinks and stuff, it still has that believability of that realism and everything, which is why messaging is important. Toby, I feel like has come full circle from where he was in season one. Yes, he still, for the most part, has the same traits as season one and season two and everything, but there's an added bonus and everything. They gave him Jakeem's kind of like, leadership qualities this season, which kind of fleshes him out more as a well-rounded character. So when he started off in season one, he was kind of just like, the player. He jokes around a lot. He was banging Abby and he just wanted her because she was hot and he just wanted to bang her. Also, he's not a grifter, but he's kind of like a slight grifter, kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like he knows how to make the deal happen. You need something, he can get it for you type person, you know? And I remember something happened in season one, I think with gummy bears or weed or something like that. I don't know what it was, but then also he owed like Yelena like money or something like that. And when he couldn't pay, she was gonna break his kneecaps. But the thing about him that always made him interesting is that you think he's just the joker, like, the prankster type person, but he's actually really intelligent in math. And not only that, but he also speaks, I think, Japanese or something like that. Something most people did not know about him in season one and took people by surprise. By season two, he got like a job and he really, really started to fall for that of Abby, trying to make, her dreams come true. Come this season and everything, he wants to go to Cambridge. Him and his mom had saved up enough money from him working the jobs and like, with his prep school background and everything, they really want him to get there, But we don't know much about like his family life until we finally meet like one of his parents, his mom, who happens to be white and everything. When it comes to the parents of like, the main five, we've seen Jakeem's mom, we've seen Toby's mom, and we've seen Femi's uncle, but not his parents. The other two, Omar and Leah, we've never seen their parents. Ironically, we've never seen their father figures in this show, but we've seen like, two of the mothers now. His whole thing this season is that other than going to Cambridge, Abby wants to go like horseback riding somewhere around the world. Not his thing, but he doesn't want to be away from her. So he really wants to make her happy. He's gonna put college aside and go traveling with her, and he wants to be able to pay for stuff. Apparently he still has his job, I think, but we never see him actually go to it this season. So not really too sure if he still has it or not. But doing like, I guess kind of like this mentorship like day they had, or career day, they partnered him with this one guy in business. Carol partnered Leah, I forgot to mention, with this Indian woman who does fashion. But Leah's not into fashion. And Carol's reasoning for that, well, you're both two women of color, so I thought you would like each other. Carol's so racist. But anyway, she partnered him with this business dude. And he actually gave the business guy a lot of good business advice. So much that the guy made a lot of money, I guess like overnight. And wanted, Toby to work for him. I assume that maybe he will put off Cambridge and horseback riding and go work for this man. But instead, he's working for him while he's in school trying to cram for exams. He is way too overloaded and stressed out. He does his schoolwork during the day and I guess his job in the afternoon. And then late at night, waking his roommate up, he's on the phone making business decisions for this man. And it's to the point where he realizes, hey, he needs to like quit this like dude, like this business guy and everything, because he needs his sleep and all this other stuff. As for Abby and everything, they finally tell each other they love each other, but like I said before, they both break up with each other towards the end. I guess he came to the realization he can't leave Cambridge, and also she realized that as well because his mom really wanted him to get in there. And so for now, they are broken up so that they can pursue their adult lives and everything and do what they want to do in like college or horseback riding or whatever. Now, they did give him the Jakeem, like, leadership role. When Femi had his election, he rallied the gang up to support him. When Leah went missing, he rallied the gang up to like go find her and stuff. But he didn't help Omar out. He just knew Omar set the sprinklers off and everything. This was unexpected for him to take like the leadership like role and everything because that's not his character. And it did feel a little out of place and a little forced because Jakeem, of course, is not there. But it was nice to see him step up to the plate. And once again, we got to see the red convertible and everything. Because when they went to go look for Leah, of course, they needed a ride. And this is what made me assume he still has his old job to where, they had that really nice car. Either that or he just knew the guy and needed a favor. Femi has turned to be one of my favorite characters, starting with that of somewhat season 2, but mostly season 3. In season 1, he wasn't really there because he was too busy deserting his friends for his new friend group. Like, they tend to get him in a lot of trouble and everything. Like in season 1, when he was failing his classes because he was partying and drinking too much. Or in season 2, when they tried to convince him to have sex with his drama theater teacher and everything. Which was a really embarrassing scenario for him. And eventually got her fired. She didn't do nothing, but still the damage was done. But this season, they made him into a much better character and everything. They actually gave him a love interest, but the love interest, just kind of threw herself onto him. But nevertheless, he got to finally be with somebody after all these seasons. However, it came with that of a price. His friendship with that of Cheddar. Now, when it comes to Cheddar and all that, actually, I'll get into that a little bit later. So, first, the whole theater wanting to be an actor thing. That storyline is done. They bring it up in the first episode, but then when he starts to think, I should start pursuing other things that are gonna be have me a stable life and financial situation and stuff like that. And this is where like people like Cheddar and stuff comes into play because Cheddar is very rich. His family is wealthy. His dad does this whole internship at like his business and everything. And so by being friends with these wealthy, preppy like guys and everything, that was actually beneficial for him because it helped give him a leg up in society. Which is what a lot of people do, especially like a lot of like people of color who, say like they're a person of color and then like black, Hispanic, Asian, whatever. And then all of a sudden, like you see them all of a sudden being conservative or dating or marrying like a really preppy like white person and stuff. There's always a catch in everything and stuff. Like people always wonder like, why so many Asian people date white people? Well, one reason is so they can get a leg up and everything. The reason why they marry, the reason why somebody would marry like a military person is to get a leg up, like financially and be stable and stuff like that. And, is whoever is like, I guess you could say the dominant, like force in jobs and money and crap like that. So there was always an end game to the writing of him for why he ditched his friends and stuff. And so because of this, there is that internship at Cheddar's father's business and stuff. But Cheddar had no idea it was only for one internship, and when Femi got it, that really pissed him off. Then all of a sudden, Femi shifted his goals to that of like wanting to be that kind of student body president person or dominus something, which it can't be student body president because they graduated this year. It must be something, a prestigious something or another. I don't know what it is because it wasn't fully explained that well and everything. But like all of a sudden, he has admirations to want to be that, which is really shocking because that's not who Femi is. In season two, it was fully established that he wanted to be an actor, which really pissed off his uncle. Now we get to see a brief cameo of his uncle this season on like a phone call. I still don't know why they made his that actor his uncle and not his father. We still have not seen his parents, but they constantly text him regularly, saying they're proud of him. Not only that, but wasn't it kind of established in season two that he actually comes from money and everything? That he's actually not that poor? I don't know, but that got dropped as well. But anyways, so like when he's, doing the whole election thing, he bombed the first round. Like he couldn't get like his speech out properly. And then Cheddar just like obliterated him, making fun of him during his speech. But somehow he was still in the running. With that vote of confidence, he started to get better and everything. But Cheddar being like, a person who bribes people with money, alcohol, and getting a person to a better college and everything, that won him over with the crowd, but it did not win him the election. But then it was later revealed, like I said before, it was Pixie who rigged the election for Femi to win. And even after knowing this, Femi's kind of like, I ain't giving this up. Like if I give this up, I ain't got nothing. And I like that and everything. He realizes that it's kind of like, yeah, he didn't cheat to be like, whatever that position was, but it's going to come with a lot of perks. But here comes Cheddar being the villain of the season and everything, and wants Femi to choose, what you going to do, my sister or this internship or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So, and then of course there's the opposing side of like Cheddar and Pixie's father, who does not want Femi to like, date his daughter because of race and everything. And I love the idea of how Femi and Pixie concocted this scheme to trick both Cheddar and the father, the thinking that they broke up, but they really didn't, and he's still gonna work for like the father and everything. I also like that takes a lot of initiative and like wits and everything, to pull off a con like that. Because sometimes in life you do have to kind of like, do some unexpected things just to get ahead in life. And that's kind of like what he did. Also, I like the fact that this season he started to rejoin his original friend group with the original five, or a team of five, I like to call them. Which I was kind of wondering in the first episode, why all of a sudden is he talking to them again? And then I found out why. Jakeem had left in the second episode. But yeah, I do like, if Jakeem did not leave, most likely Femi would never have like taken on this role. Most likely it would have went to Jakeem and everything. So that was nice to flesh his character out a heck of a lot more than that of season one. So it is sad that this show is coming to an end because, I really do like this show. This is one of those type of shows that a lot of people should watch. It really flips the script on how like a lot of television is done, especially that in America. And this is a British show of all things. And, it's one of those things where you have great black representation, but not only that, Nobody uses the N word in this show, not even in the music, which I really appreciate because I hate that word so much as a black man. It pisses me off to the point that where if I hear it in music or hear it in a show, I turn it completely off and I never finish it and stuff. And it really bums me out because there are a lot of like black shows and movies I want to watch, but in the moment I hear that word, I'm just no longer interested. There's even movies of the past I used to watch and love and own that I don't even watch no more because of it. So I do like and it does show you, plain and simple, you can have a black series where black people act black, but they don't have to use like a racial slur. And they don't have to act like a bunch of thugs or like a bunch of idiots or a bunch of loud, crazy people and stuff. Like you can have, black people being black without that stereotype of them acting ghetto and everything. And that's what I like about this show. It is the show that not all black people are the same, not all races are the same. It's like, because a lot of people always have that stereotype that, oh, if they're black, they must be ghetto. If they're black, they must be a drug dealer. If they're black, they must be in a gang. But no, like this show proves, all black people are not like that and stuff. This is really, really, and also I like the fact they're not rich. That's one thing that pisses me off about a lot of black sitcoms or a lot of black like movies or shows that have like black good representation. They're always middle class or rich or doctors or lawyers or like senators or something like that, But here, they're just a bunch of normal kids who grew up poor and got the opportunity of a lifetime. And this show does prove that, we need more shows like this with diversity and inclusion and equality and stuff like that. But there's always that one race, that one group of people that's always screaming from the rooftops about no, representation does not matter. And wokeness is like, killing Hollywood and blah, 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 blah. They say that just so people can hate on that stuff. And so things will not change because they don't like change. They like everything being the same. They like being on top of the food chain. And once they get a peg down, then they start getting worried. See, it's that fear and everything that later turns into hatred and stuff and bigotry. And shows like this prove that, we need more representation in Hollywood and stuff. But sadly, like I said before, Hollywood is going back to their old-fashioned ways. And so is the entertainment business. Because it is kind of odd that this show started off with a lot of black social issues and everything. But then all of a sudden in season 2, that kind of gets wiped away and then gets wiped away even more in season 3. I truly believe that, it's because maybe studio interference and stuff. Because why would the creator all of a sudden change that? And he had a specific goal for this show. Happy Black History Month, everybody. I'll talk to you later. Bye.